The battlefield of Nexus 7 was quiet now. The plasma storms had passed 3 hours ago, and the twin suns were setting behind the jagged mountain range that divided the planet in half. Captain Marcus Webb sat in the ruins of what had once been a Zinthari outpost, his rifle across his knees, watching the sky turn orange and purple. Around him, the survivors of Bravo Company were doing what soldiers always did after battle. Some were cleaning weapons, some were eating ration packs, some were sleeping in whatever shade they could find, and some were simply staring at nothing, trying to make sense of what they had just lived through. The war with the Zinthari had been going on for 2 years now. It had started over a resource dispute in the Kepler sector, but it had grown into something much larger. The Zinthari were insectoid beings, standing nearly 8 feet tall with 4 arms and armored carapaces that could stop small arms fire. They were terrifying in close combat. They did not feel pain the way humans did. They did not surrender. They did not retreat. At least, that was what the briefings always said. Marcus looked across the crater that marked the center of the battlefield. There, about 50 meters away, a cluster of Zinthari soldiers sat in similar poses to his own men. They were wounded, they were trapped, and they were waiting to die. The orbital strike was scheduled for 1900 hours. Both human and Zinthari forces in this sector had been written off by their respective commands. There was no extraction coming. The only question was which side would finish off the other before the sky fell. Private First Class Ginny Torres came and sat down next to Marcus. She was young, maybe 22, with short black hair and a face that had seen too much in too little time. She had a cut above her eye that someone had patched with medical tape. "Captain," she said, "what are we going to do?" Marcus did not answer right away. He was watching the Zinthari. One of them was clearly in charge, a larger individual with darker coloring and what looked like command markings on its thorax. It was moving among its soldiers, checking on them, just like Marcus had been doing an hour ago. "Torres," Marcus said finally, "how many did we lose?" 11 dead, 14 wounded bad enough that they can't fight. We've got maybe 30 who can still hold a rifle." "And them?" Torres looked at the Zinthari. "Hard to say. Maybe the same, could be more wounded though. Their medics didn't make it." Marcus nodded slowly. The math was simple and ugly. Even if they won, even if they somehow killed every Zinthari in that crater before the orbital strike hit, they could not get far enough away in time. The strike was designed to sterilize a 20-kilometer radius. There was nowhere to run. Sergeant Mike Chen appeared on Marcus's other side. He was an older man, a career soldier with gray at his temples and scars on his hands. He had been with Marcus since the beginning of the war. "Captain, the men are asking questions. They want to know the plan." "The plan," Marcus repeated. He almost laughed. "The plan is that we're all going to die in about 4 hours, Mike, them and us both." "Then maybe we should make our peace," Chen said quietly. "Or we could charge them, go out fighting." Torres shook her head. "That's stupid. We'd just be killing each other for no reason. The strike is going to kill whoever's left anyway." Marcus was still watching the Zinthari commander. As if sensing his gaze, the alien turned and looked directly at him. For a long moment, they simply stared at each other across the crater. 2 commanders, 2 species, 2 groups of soldiers who were all going to die. Then Marcus did something that surprised even himself. He stood up, set his rifle on the ground, and raised his hands so they were empty and visible. "Captain," Chen grabbed his arm, "what are you doing?" "I don't know yet," Marcus said, "but I'm tired of killing people who are just as trapped as we are." He started walking toward the crater. Behind him, he could hear the confused murmurs of his soldiers. Someone called out for him to stop. Someone else was checking their weapon, but Marcus kept walking. The Zinthari soldiers stirred as he approached. Several of them raised weapons, but their commander made a sharp clicking sound and the weapons lowered. The large alien stepped forward, matching Marcus's approach. They met in the middle of the crater, about 10 meters apart. Up close, the Zenthari commander was even more imposing. Its compound eyes reflected the dying light of the suns. Its mandibles clicked softly as it studied him. Marcus's translator crackled. The device was standard military issue, designed to interpret Zenthari communication patterns. It was not perfect, but it worked well enough. "Human commander," the translator rendered the Zenthari's words. "You come without weapon. This is unexpected behavior." "We're all going to die in a few hours," Marcus said. "Your commanders ordered a strike on this position. So did mine. Neither side is coming to save us." The Zenthari was silent for a moment. Then it made a sound that the translator struggled with. "This information is known to me. The Hive has deemed this unit acceptable loss. Your Hive has done same." "Your Hive," Marcus said. "That's what you call your command structure." "Hive, collective, authority, many words for same concept." The alien's head tilted. "You use word command, but meaning is similar. Orders come from above. We follow or we are nothing." Marcus felt something shift in his chest. Here he was, standing across from an enemy he had been trained to hate and fear, and the alien was basically saying the same thing every soldier since the beginning of time had said. "We follow orders. We do what we're told. We are pawns in someone else's game." "What is your name?" Marcus asked. The Zenthari's mandibles clicked rapidly. "Name. Individual designation. This is human concept. In Hive, I am function. I am Commander who leads 3rd Assault Swarm." "That's a title, not a name." "Is there difference?" Marcus thought about that. "Yes, a title is what you do, a name is who you are." The alien was quiet for a long time. "Then I am Vexnar. It is the sound my progenitor made when I emerged from the egg. It is mine alone." "I'm Marcus, Marcus Webb." "Marcus Webb," Vexnar repeated. The translator made the name sound strange, but the alien seemed to be trying. "Why do you come to speak, Marcus Webb? What purpose does this serve? We die regardless of words." "Maybe no purpose," Marcus admitted. "Maybe I'm just tired of fighting. We've been at war for 2 years. I've killed hundreds of your people. You've probably killed hundreds of mine. And for what? Some rocks in space. Some treaty that nobody even remembers anymore." Vexnar's compound eyes seemed to shift. "The war began over resources. This is known. But war continues because both hives have invested too much to stop. Pride, cost. These things matter to those who command. But not to those who die. No, not to those who die." They stood there as the suns continued to set. Behind Marcus, his soldiers were watching in tense silence. Behind Vexnar, the Zenthari were doing the same. "You're wounded," Marcus said suddenly. "Tors said your medics didn't make it. Do you have anyone who can treat injuries?" Vexnar made that untranslatable sound again. "No. Several of my soldiers will die before the Skyfire comes. Their pain could be ended sooner, but I have not given that order. To do so feels like surrender." Marcus made a decision. It was not the smart decision. It was not the tactical decision, but it felt like the right one. "We have medics, medical supplies, not much but some." The alien went very still. "You offer aid to enemy, to Zenthari." "I offer aid to soldiers who are going to die alongside my soldiers. If we're all going to burn together, we might as well not spend our last hours suffering." The soldiers of Bravo Company watched in disbelief as Captain Webb walked back across the crater with the Zenthari commander beside him. Some of them raised weapons. Others simply stared with open mouths. Private Tors stepped forward, her hand on her sidearm. "Captain," she said carefully, "what's happening?" "Stand down, Tors. All of you stand down." Marcus gestured to the alien beside him. "This is Vexnar. His soldiers need medical attention and they don't have any medics left." "Sir, they're Zenthari. They're the enemy." "They were the enemy," Marcus said. "Now they're just soldiers, same as us. We've got 4 hours until we all die. I'm not spending those hours fighting when there's no point." Sergeant Chen stepped forward, his expression unreadable. "Captain, this goes against every protocol we have. If Command finds out—" "Command wrote us off, Mike. They're dropping a planet killer on us at 1900. They don't care if we follow protocol." The silence that followed was heavy. Then Chen did something that surprised everyone. He nodded slowly and turned to the rest of the company. "You heard the captain. Let's get the med kits ready." The next hour was one of the strangest in military history. Human medics worked on Zenthari wounds, trying to figure out alien anatomy as they went. The Zenthari carapace was tough, but it had joints and weak points, and that was where most of the injuries were. Blue-green blood that smelled like copper. Four-armed bodies that didn't bend the way human bodies did. Private Tors found herself bandaging the leg of a Zenthari warrior who towered over her. The alien watched her work with its many-faceted eyes. Its mandibles clicked softly. "You are small," the translator rendered. "Smaller than combat recordings suggested." "Yeah, well, you're bigger than I expected," Tors said. "Hold still, I need to apply pressure here." "Pain is acceptable. Your hands are gentle." Tors glanced up at the alien's face. It was impossible to read expression in those features, but something in the way it held itself seemed almost relaxed. "What's your name?" she asked. "I am Skitterhoof Langsand Strikes." "No, your real name, like Vexnar told our captain." The Zenthari was quiet for a moment. "I have not been asked this before. Among the hive, individual names are private things, shared only with clutch mates." "Sorry, I didn't mean to pry." "No, it is not unwelcome." Another pause. "I am Crix. It means nothing special. It is simply mine." "I'm Jenny. Nice to meet you, Crix." The alien made a sound that the translator couldn't interpret. But somehow, Tors got the sense that it was the equivalent of a laugh. Across the makeshift camp, Marcus and Vexnar were watching their soldiers intermingle. What had started as tense, wary interactions was slowly becoming something else. A human soldier showed a Zenthari warrior how to play cards. A Zenthari demonstrated the proper way to clean one of their plasma rifles. Two species that had been killing each other for years were sitting in the dirt, sharing water and stories. "This is unprecedented," Vexnar observed. "In all hive memory, there is no record of such interaction with enemy forces." "Same for us," Marcus admitted. "We're probably violating about 50 different regulations right now." Regulations. Rules created by those who do not fight to control those who do. That's a pretty cynical view. "Is it inaccurate?" Marcus laughed despite himself. "No, it's pretty accurate actually." They watched as Sergeant Chen showed a group of Zenthari soldiers how to play a clapping game that his grandmother had taught him. The aliens struggled with the timing, their 4 arms getting in the way. But they kept trying, and Chen kept patiently demonstrating. "Your soldier is patient," Vexnar noted. "Chen, yeah, he's got 3 kids back home. He's used to teaching." "Children, offspring. This is why humans fight differently." Marcus turned to look at the alien. "What do you mean?" "Zenthari are born in clutches of hundreds. We do not know our progenitors. We are raised by the hive as part of the collective. Individual bonds are discouraged. It makes soldiers easier to sacrifice." "That's horrible." "It is efficient." But Vexnar's voice carried something that the translator couldn't quite render. Sadness, maybe, or longing. "Your species forms bonds, families, friendships. You fight harder because you fight for specific individuals, not abstract concepts." Sometimes we fight for stupid reasons too." "All species fight for stupid reasons. This is perhaps the only universal truth." The hours passed strangely. With no more fighting to do and death waiting on the horizon, both groups seemed to settle into a kind of peace. Human ration packs were shared with curious Zenthari. Zenthari stimulant compounds were offered to tired human soldiers, though most politely declined. Stories were exchanged. A young Zenthari named Threx told Tors about the first time it had seen stars from space, how the vastness had made it feel small and significant at the same time. Tors told Threx about her grandmother's farm in Wyoming, about the smell of rain on dry earth, and the way horses would run when thunderstorms rolled in. Neither of them mentioned the coming orbital strike. It hung over everything like a shadow, but speaking of it seemed pointless. As the first moon rose, casting silver light across the battlefield, Marcus found Vexnar standing alone at the edge of the camp. The alien was looking up at the sky. "In 2 hours fire will come from up there," Vexnar said. "It will erase everything we have done here. No one will know that enemies became something else." "Something else," Marcus repeated. "Is that what we've become?" "I do not have word for it. The hive does not have concept for it, but I believe your species does." "What concept?" Vexnar turned to face him. "Brothers." Marcus felt something tighten in his chest. "Brothers, yeah, I think that's about right. I have never had brother. I have never had anyone who was mine, specifically mine, to care about and protect. Only the hive, only the collective, only orders." "Me neither," Marcus admitted. "I mean I have family, but brothers in the way you mean. No, not until today." They stood in silence as the moon continued to rise. Somewhere in the camp, someone was laughing. Human laughter and Zenthari clicking, mixed together in a sound that had never existed before in the universe. "I do not wish to die," Vexnar said quietly. "This is a weakness I have never admitted before. Zenthari are not supposed to fear death. We are supposed to welcome sacrifice for the hive. But I do not want this story to end." "Neither do I," Marcus said. "And I don't think it's weak to want to live. I think it's the most natural thing in the universe." "Then we must find way to survive." Marcus looked at the alien. "What do you mean?" "The orbital strike is coming from your fleet, yes. Is there no way to contact them? No way to stop it?" "Our communication equipment was destroyed in the battle. We've got nothing that can reach orbit." Vexnar's mandibles clicked rapidly. "Zenthari communication uses different frequency, different method, quantum entanglement across distances. Our equipment was also damaged, but perhaps not destroyed." Hope sparked in Marcus's chest. "You think you might be able to reach someone?" "I think we must try. For our soldiers. For this thing we have built tonight. For the possibility that brothers do not have to die together when they have only just discovered brotherhood." They walked back into the camp, where human and Zenthari soldiers were sitting around fires, talking in halting translation and gestures. Marcus felt something he had not felt in a long time, not since before the war, not since before everything had become about survival and killing. He felt hope. The communication array was a shattered mess. Corporal David Park, the company's tech specialist, stood over it with 2 Zenthari engineers, trying to make sense of what could be salvaged. The Zenthari technology was completely different from anything Park had ever seen, biological components mixed with crystalline structures that pulsed with faint light. "Okay," Park said, scratching his head. "So your communication system uses quantum-paired crystals." The Zenthari engineer, who had introduced itself as Chitter Who Builds, clicked in confirmation. "Crystal pairs are grown from same base. What happens to one happens to other, regardless of distance. Theory is simple, practice is delicate. And these crystals here are still intact. Some enough perhaps for one transmission. Very short, very compressed." Park looked at Captain Webb, who was standing nearby with Vexnar. "Sir, I might be able to jury-rig this if the Zenthari can help, but I don't know who we'd contact. Our fleet isn't going to listen to a message from Zenthari tech." "We don't need to contact your fleet," Vexnar said. "We need to contact the Concord Station." Everyone fell silent. Concord Station was the only neutral territory in the sector, a massive space station run by the Mediator Guild. They were the closest thing the galaxy had to an impartial authority. They had tried to broker peace between humans and Zenthari 3 times, and 3 times both sides had walked away. "Will they listen?" Marcus asked. "The mediators must listen. It is their function. Whether they will act is another matter." Vexnar's compound eyes reflected the firelight. "But if we send proof of what has happened here, proof that human and Zenthari can become brothers instead of enemies, perhaps they will see value in intervening." "What kind of proof?" Vexnar turned to face the camp, where soldiers of both species were still talking, laughing, sharing. "This, all of this, visual record, audio record, evidence that everything both sides believed about each other was wrong." Tor stepped forward. "I've been recording. Ever since the captain walked out to meet you. I didn't know why at the time. I just felt like someone should document this." Marcus stared at her. "You've been recording." "On my tactical visor. It's not great quality, but it's clear enough to see what's happening." "If we can compress that recording and send it to Concord," Park said slowly, "they'd have to respond. This is literally unprecedented. This changes everything about the war." The next hour was frantic. Park and the Zenthari engineers worked together, human hands and alien appendages manipulating technology that neither fully understood. Wires were spliced. Crystals were carefully positioned. Tor's recording was transferred and compressed. All around them the other soldiers kept watch. Not watching for enemies anymore, but watching the sky. Watching for the fire that was coming. The orbital strike was scheduled for 1900, and it was now 1745. They had just over an hour. "Almost there," Park muttered. "Just need to stabilize the power flow." "I can help," a young Zenthari soldier said. It was Crix, the one Tors had bandaged earlier. "I have some training in field engineering." "Good, hold this here while I connect these leads." Human and Zenthari worked side by side, their differences forgotten in the face of a common goal. The rest of the soldiers watched in tense silence. Some were praying, each in their own way. Others simply held hands with whoever was nearest, human or alien. It didn't matter anymore. Sergeant Chen stood next to Vexnar, watching the work. "You know, if this works, it'll change everything, not just for us but for the whole war." "This is understood," Vexnar said. "It is why we must succeed." "And if it doesn't work?" Vexnar turned to look at Chen with those faceted eyes. "Then we will have died trying to create something better than war. There are worse ways to end." Chen nodded slowly. "You know what? You're all right for a bug. And you are acceptable for a soft-bodied mammal." They both made sounds of amusement, different in form but identical in spirit. At 1822, Park sat back and wiped sweat from his forehead. "Okay, I think it's ready. I can't guarantee it'll work, but we've got one shot." Marcus looked at Vexnar. "Your people's technology, you should send the message." "No, you should send it, Marcus Webb. Your voice will mean more. Humans are known for communication, for emotion, for making others feel what they feel. Zenthari are known for efficiency and coldness. If the mediators are to be moved, they must be moved by a human voice." Marcus wanted to argue, but he knew Vexnar was right. He knelt beside the jury-rigged transmitter and took a deep breath. "Tors, how do I access the recording?" "It's already queued. Just speak your message first, then I'll attach the file." Marcus looked around at the faces watching him. Human faces, tired and hopeful. Zenthari faces, alien and unreadable but somehow present in a way they hadn't been before. All of them waiting for him to find the words. "This is Captain Marcus Webb of the Terran Defense Force," he began. "This message is directed to the Mediator Guild at Concord Station. I am transmitting from the surface of Nexus 7, where my unit and a Zenthari assault force were both written off as acceptable losses by our respective commands. An orbital strike is scheduled to destroy this entire area in approximately 40 minutes. He paused, gathering his thoughts. But something happened here today, something that I don't think anyone could have predicted. Instead of fighting to the death, we stopped. We talked. We helped each other. Human medics treated Zenthari wounded. Zenthari engineers are helping me send this message right now. We discovered that beneath all the differences, beneath the propaganda and the hatred, we're not so different after all. Marcus looked at Vexnar, who nodded encouragingly. The Zenthari commander here, Vexnar, called us brothers. I didn't think that was possible an hour ago. I was taught that Zenthari were monsters, that they didn't feel, that they couldn't understand concepts like friendship or loyalty. I was wrong. I was so wrong. His voice caught, but he pushed through. This war has killed millions on both sides. It started over resources that don't matter and has continued because neither side knows how to stop. But we stopped here, today, right now. And if we can do it, if these soldiers can become brothers in the face of death, then there has to be a way for everyone to stop. I'm attaching visual evidence of everything that has happened. Watch it. See what we've become. And then, if you can, please help us. Not because we deserve it, but because what's happening here deserves to continue. This story shouldn't end with fire from the sky. It should be the beginning of something new. He fell silent. Tors quickly attached the compressed recording to the transmission. Ready? Park asked. Send it. Park activated the transmitter. The quantum crystals pulsed once, bright blue light filling the small device. Then the light faded and everything went quiet. Did it work? Tors asked. I don't know, Park admitted. The crystals activated, so the message should have been sent, but whether anyone received it, whether anyone will act on it. He spread his hands helplessly. The minutes crept by. 1840, 1850, 1900. The soldiers, human and Zenthari alike, watched the sky. Some held hands, some stood at attention, waiting for the end. But the sky remained silent. 1910, 1920, still nothing. Marcus began to feel something that might have been hope or might have been despair. He couldn't tell anymore. The waiting was almost worse than the certainty of death. Then, at 1932, light blazed across the sky, but it was not the fire of orbital bombardment. It was the running lights of ships, dozens of ships descending through the atmosphere in formation. What is that? Chen demanded. Is that the strike? Park was staring at his scanner, the only piece of human equipment that still worked. Negative. These aren't military vessels. They're Mediator Guild ships, the whole fleet. The ships landed in a wide circle around the battlefield, their spotlights illuminating the mixed camp of human and Zenthari soldiers. Hatches opened, and figures emerged. Mediators, the silver-skinned beings who served as neutral arbiters in galactic disputes. Behind them came diplomats of a dozen species, reporters with recording devices, and what looked like emergency medical teams. A single figure approached the camp. It was tall and thin, with the elongated features of a mediator, dressed in the formal robes of a guild speaker. It stopped before Marcus and Vexnar, who had come forward to meet it. Captain Marcus Webb, the mediator said. Its voice was musical, carrying across the silent battlefield. Commander Vexnar, your message was received, your evidence was reviewed, and a decision was made. What decision? Marcus asked. The orbital strikes have been cancelled. Both of them. Your governments have been contacted and informed that the Mediator Guild is assuming jurisdiction over this sector effective immediately, pending formal peace negotiations. Marcus felt his knees go weak. They agreed just like that. Not just like that. The mediator's expression shifted into something that might have been a smile. But when we showed them your recording, when we showed them what their soldiers had become to each other in the face of death, something changed. The hardliners who wanted to continue the war found themselves unable to explain why they would prefer to kill their own soldiers rather than accept peace. Vexnar stepped forward, and the Zenthari collective, they agreed as well. They were more reluctant. but the images of HFY warriors playing human games, of your soldiers laughing with their enemies, of wounded HFY being treated by human medics. These images spread through the HiveNet faster than any authority could suppress them. The collective is demanding answers. They are demanding change. Behind them, the soldiers of both species were emerging from the camp, staring at the landed ships with expressions of disbelief. Human soldiers were hugging HFY warriors. HFY were making their untranslatable laughter sounds. Someone was crying. Someone was laughing. The emotions were too big to contain. "What happens now?" Marcus asked. Now you come with us to Concord Station. Both groups. You will be witnesses, testimonies to what is possible when enemies choose to see each other as beings rather than targets. The peace negotiations will be difficult, long, complicated. But they will happen. Because of you. Because of what you chose to do when you chose to walk across that crater with empty hands. Marcus turned to look at Vexnar. The alien's compound eyes reflected the lights of the mediator ships, and somehow Marcus could read emotion in them now. Hope, relief, something that might have been love. "Brothers," Marcus said. "Brothers," Vexnar agreed. And on that battlefield, surrounded by the ships of peace, human and HFY soldiers embraced. They had walked into the day as enemies. They had expected to die as forgotten casualties. Instead, they had become something the universe had never seen before. They had become family. The news spread across both civilizations like wildfire. The images from Nexus 7 appeared on every screen, in every HiveNet, in every home. Humans saw HFY not as monsters, but as beings who laughed and hoped and feared death just like they did. HFY saw humans not as aggressive primitives, but as creatures who would help their enemies when there was nothing to gain from doing so. The peace negotiations took 3 years. There were setbacks, arguments, moments when it seemed like everything would collapse back into war. But every time the talks reached an impasse, someone would play the recording from Nexus 7. They would show Marcus walking across the crater. They would show human hands bandaging alien wounds. They would show Sergeant Chen teaching HFY how to play a clapping game. And something would shift. Hardened diplomats would remember that their enemies were people too. Military commanders would think of the soldiers who had chosen brotherhood over death, and the talks would continue. The Treaty of Nexus was signed on the 5th anniversary of that day. It established free movement between human and HFY space. It created exchange programs for students and scientists. It formed joint military units for peacekeeping operations. Marcus Webb was there for the signing, now wearing the uniform of an admiral. Vexnar stood beside him, elevated to speaker for external relations within the HFY collective. They watched as leaders of both species put their signatures to a document that would have been impossible 5 years earlier. "We did this," Marcus said quietly. "All those soldiers who chose not to fight, they did this." "No," Vexnar replied. "You did this, Marcus Webb, when you set down your weapon and walked toward me with empty hands. That was the moment everything changed." Marcus shook his head. "I was just tired and scared and looking for something better. You could have shot me. Your soldiers could have attacked. But they did not. Because I saw something in you that I had never seen before. I saw someone who was willing to take a risk for something greater than survival. I wanted to understand what kind of being would do such a thing. And now you understand." Vexnar made that untranslatable sound that Marcus now knew was deep laughter. "Now I understand that humans are the strangest, bravest, most irrationally hopeful species in the galaxy. And I understand that we are very lucky you chose to share your hope with us." The ceremony ended. The dignitaries dispersed, but Marcus and Vexnar remained, standing on the observation deck of Concord Station, watching the stars. "Do you ever think about that day?" Marcus asked. "About how close we came to dying?" "I think about it often. I think about how I almost killed a brother I had not yet met. It makes me grateful for every day since." Yeah, me too. They stood in comfortable silence, two beings from different worlds who had found something precious in the worst possible circumstances. Behind them, through the station's viewports, human and Zenthari ships flew together for the first time in history. Not as enemies, not even as allies. As family. The universe would never be the same. And it had all started with a single act of courage, a single choice to see an enemy as a person, a single moment when a Terran warrior shocked the galaxy by offering brotherhood to those he had been taught to hate. Human beings had done many remarkable things throughout their history. They had built civilizations and created art and explored the cosmos. But perhaps their greatest achievement was this: the ability to look at a monster and see a friend, to face annihilation and choose connection, to transform hatred into love through nothing more than the stubborn insistence that everyone deserves to be treated like family. The Zenthari had a word for it now. They called it the human way. And slowly, species by species, world by world, the galaxy was learning to follow it. Because in the end, that was what humans did best. Not conquering or destroying or dominating, but connecting, bridging gaps, building bridges, making brothers out of enemies. And the universe was better for it.